Well, the state capture inquiry is due to start in
Takes the breath of innocent ANC members and leaders away. It might take the breath away of those who are implicated. But what you must remember is that these allegations, as shocking as they are untested.
Yeah.
One is waiting to see how he is going to perform under cross-examination. Be that as it may, I think what we're seeing here is a situation where what I call the Askari chickens coming home to roost. There are several Askari impulses that are coming together to shape the direction of battles inside and outside the ANC. And when I talk about the Askari, I'm talking both figuratively and literally. That you have those Askaris who worked for the apartheid government, but you have those figuratively who make decisions and made choices that went against the ANC's policy, revolutionary, and other agendas. For instance, you have those who are policy Askaris, you have the corruption Askaris, and so on. And these are coming home to roost now and are quite destructive as far as the image and the existence of the ruling party is concerned, because as things stand now, it seems at the end of the day, there might be no one left standing. Because you think Agrizzi's testimony is shocking, there's still more shocking testimony to come. And it seems to me, and I'm saying this tongue-in-cheek, half seriously, that the different leaders and elements of the ANC that are mired in this corruption may need to settle. Let me illustrate what I'm saying in this way. Imagine ANC leaders sitting around a table like this. They are having dinner, but they are eating with one hand. The question is, what are they doing with the other hand? They are squeezing each other's balls. Now, there's a point beyond which, if they continue squeezing, they will be destroyed. Everyone around the table will be destroyed. I think we have reached that point where they should stop squeezing. Now, when this happens, political elites settle and redetermine the terms of looting, the terms of corruption, patronage, and so on. But I suspect the ANC has gone beyond the point where a settlement between its elites is possible. Going forward, I think the ANC will get weaker and weaker, will be weakened further by these allegations, counter-allegations, deception strategies, counter-deception strategies, allegations and counter-allegations.
I mean, Zizi Kodwa has said that the ANC itself cannot answer for the actions of individuals within the party. But does that also mean that the ANC itself won't be judged by these allegations by individuals in the party? It's an election year already.
Well, I suppose your mouth cannot accuse your lips of acting incorrectly when it says certain things. In reality, politics doesn't work that way. This is having a negative image on the ANC. And in fact, the ANC has contributed a lot to this mess. There's been a time when it was in the interest of the ANC to be quiet about corruption, to look the other way when its leaders are accused of corruption. In fact, what has happened here is that what is coming out in this commission shows us the extent to which the ANC, particularly the balance of power and the balance of forces, has been changing over time to the detriment of those whose position has become weaker in the party. At the same time, it shows us the extent to which institutions such as the NPA and the Hawks have not changed. So people praise the Hawks today. They praise the NPA for acting against people who are corrupt. And they assume that this is evidence that these institutions are changing, and that is not true. They have not changed. They remain as servile to power as they were before. What they do is to anticipate the wishes of those in power. If the wishes of those in power is not to act against corruption, rent-seeking, and so on, they will not act. If the wishes of those in power is to arrest corruption, they will act accordingly.
I mean, when we were hearing last year all of the allegations, all of the testimony against the former president, there were these questions around the fact that he was not acting in a vacuum. He was not the only person, he was not a one-man show in the ANC. There were people around him. Does this testimony perhaps speak to those people around him who also have something to answer for?
Well, it depends on how far back you want to go. In my view, the seeds for what we see today were planted when the ANC was in exile and operating underground. Some of its leaders engaged in relations with dubious characters, sometimes members of criminal syndicates, sometimes members of foreign intelligence, sometimes rogue elements in global and domestic capital. And when I talk about the fact that the Askari chickens are coming home to roost, I'm talking about how all these Askari elements, Askari forces, are now coalescing to the detriment and destruction of the ANC. So it was always foolish to blame one man, Jacob Zuma, as if Jacob Zuma was the cause of the ANC's decline, when actually he was a symptom of the decline. He was a product of the decline. And what we're beginning to get now is how deep the decline is. But we are making the mistake again of focusing narrowly on what Agrizzi is saying, in the same way that we focus narrowly on what was said about the Guptas. What we see here is a symptom. The malaise is much deeper. It is a malaise of a liberation movement that has become a home for corruption, a home for things venal, a liberation movement that has declined strategically, tactically, morally, and otherwise. So what we're seeing now is simply a symptom of that decline.
I mean, for ordinary South Africans, is this something that will not sit well with them heading up to elections as they stand in that booth with that paper in front of them and they decide where to make their mark?
Well, the political crisis facing South Africa is deeper than the crisis in the ANC. It is a generalized political crisis. In my view, our political class in its entirety is captured. So you can replace the ANC today by another party. The phenomenon that is being exposed by the Zonda Commission will continue in other ways. In other words, there are interests that are dominant in the global and domestic economy who want to make sure that in policy and other terms, the South African economy and the economic policies of the ANC and other policies are created in their image. So it doesn't matter which party is in power. If I'm correct about saying that our political class in its entirety is captured, it will not matter. But anyway, look at the alternatives. In my view, the alternatives are hollow, the alternatives are shallow.
I mean, it sounds pretty much doom and gloom.
Well, what you have to do, I'm not saying people must not vote. You must go to vote. But make sure that you do this to your nose and that you make your X.
Aubrey Mashikli, please do stay seated as we count down to that 12 o'clock start of the state capture inquiry. Angelo Agrizzi set to take the stand for a fourth day. Let's take a quick breather. I'll be back with your headlines along with Kathy Motlatlana in just a moment. Stay with us.